wonder what the world's gonna be like.
Yeah, right. Just thinking about how much it's changed already.
Oh man.
Just from me being born. Like,
Jesus.
And welcome back to the 2 a.m. podcast, episode 64. We welcome back guest Chang.
Chang.
And for those of you who don't know any of us, my name's Zaid.
My name's Saeed.
My name's Logan. And
Welcome.
This is Chang.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So how you been?
How have you?
Well, let's
We know
see.
Zaid sees you.
Let's let's
Rarely.
see. A lot of took a group ride down to Temecula and was engaged. So that was the most recent.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? That is some news.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's the big thing. Had to plan a group ride, which is logistically complicated, and also had that thing running quietly in the background.
Yeah.
Which she knew nothing about. So it was kind of like it was a challenge. It was a hiccup that we had
Yeah, to say the
sort
least.
out. And so but shut down a whole winery and was able to have. It was
Big
shutting down.
mood.
Yeah, it's a good flex, right? It's also like that was the thing, was being able to kind of piggyback one thing on another, because there's no way I could afford to shut down an entire winery on my own. But
Yeah.
if everyone kicks in their shares, you organize the whole event. It's like, okay, I can't have a date night that tops this. So since we're all doing all this everything together, let's just shoehorn this thing in on top of that, and then so that was my kind of punching above my weight class thing, because of having a pretty sweet like sunset dinner at the top of a winery with just about a dozen motorcycle friends.
It doesn't get much better.
Yeah.
It's about as cool as it gets.
Yeah. So it was good. It was real good. That was that, and then also started actually doing some interviewing and podcasting myself. Recently came across
Very nice.
a fascinating gentleman, anonymous, goes by the online handle Corporate Machiavelli.
Yes.
A man with terminal cancer who's doing basically what feels like a brain dump of everything he's ever learned in a very long and high-profile career in the corporate world. A lot of the online gurus that we've seen are all self-employed. They're all in the perspective of how do you have your own hustle, blah, blah. Here's someone who put on a suit and tie and went into the corporate world and was able to advance at a fairly high level. And so some of the lessons he's learned dealing with kind of navigating the corridors of power on your own terms, as opposed to simply being a serf, and how far up you can climb. He didn't climb to the top, but he did make a climb that was above average for his career trajectory. And so we talked about various elements of that in an interview that's also live now. And those are the most two biggest updates since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, I think that's very intriguing.
Yeah.
That, facing anyone that's technically anonymous.
Yes.
You can't help but think.
Yeah.
You're just
What's
like,
going on? What's the
who,
story?
what, why?
Who, what,
you
where,
know?
why.
Yeah. So the who remains anonymous. The why, well, if you're facing mortality, there is the curiosity about what's past that, and so you it's a strange thing to think about in terms of if you find yourself, you've got a finite number, 6 months, a year left to live, what would you do differently, and how would you want to be remembered, especially as someone who, in his case, is he's self-described secular, not religious, so it's like lights out after you're gone.
Also part of a top percentage as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So even all of that talent to be able to be in the top probably 0.1% of Americans in terms of wealth, still couldn't buy yourself a healthy body, and that's something that's worth thinking about. I don't know what were the circumstances leading up to it. Were there other unhealthy life choices that might have contributed toward it? Was it just simply you just got extremely unlucky?
Yeah.
Who knows? But regardless, fascinating in terms of the randomness in some ways, and then how directed energy can affect your fate and fortune.
Gotcha.
I know. Well, of course, being an older person, I'm sure
Yes.
you've been thinking about mortality a lot
Oh, yeah.
more than young people such as ourselves have. But I think it's probably one of the most underrated things, at least for young people as well.
Yes.
To be able to think about your own death,
Right.
and then from that point, focus on the things that you actually find meaningful instead of, most of the
Yes.
other stuff that young people get caught up in.
Right. That's something that that's why one of the things that we've so my fiance and I were talking about is that eventually the goal is to move to someplace, buy land, not just in like a suburban area, but actually like full on rural estate. The intention is to have a because there is a age disparity between the two of us. We talk about that as well, and it's like having, once somebody is gone, to have them, bury them in have them cremated, whatever, and then bury them in on part of the land, and then plant a sapling on top of it. And then the idea is that the tree, the very essence of it, is drawing from your remains. And then as each family member passes away, you get planted to basically have the beginning of a grove of ancestors. This idea of like having a living kind of a thing that you maintain throughout the generations.
What a cool idea.
Right. And then talking about it from the perspective of dating and whatnot would be, because we have an age disparity. So my girl asks me like, so if you have a daughter, would you be okay with them thinking someone older? And it's like, it's the wrong question to ask. And I view it from the perspective, you have them like this, then it's like, then the question becomes, if you can thinking about dating somebody, the question then becomes, is this person a worthy addition to the grove of ancestors? At which point, a lot of the things that are short term, it's like, yeah, but she's got great tits. It's like, oh, but he's really rich and he buys me nice shit. It's like, these are things that they might be short term attracting as somebody who is young and full of hormones, but it's like, is that going to be? And then this is the hard reference point. It's not just an abstract thing. It's not something that great grandpa said that's in some book somewhere. It's like, this is a thing that you can see, feel, touch.
Yeah.
And to whatever extent you believe in spirituality, their soul inhabits it. But regardless, it's like, it's a way to positively affect future generations even after you're gone. So that's something I think a lot about in terms of how to create norms, habits, and whatnot that can positively influence. Because money is fungible, right? Whatever you don't spend, drops your inheritance. But it's also the most useless thing to pass along to great. If you can inherit $1 billion and be if you're a cokehead before and you inherit $1 billion, you're gonna make your drug dealer very, very rich. That's all that's gonna happen. You're not gonna keep it. You're not gonna have a nice house. You're not gonna improve your life. Your life will get worse by 1,000%.
Many examples of that.
Right?
That's very true.
So money isn't going to help you, but things like this, being able to create, and then that becomes sort of a touchstone that everyone kind of comes back to. And I think that the idea that you can either be a founding patriarch of a dynasty, or you're a bit player in someone else's dynastic story. So the idea, I think, as men, is to do everything we can to try and nudge the line toward being, if you're not born into a dynastic family, do everything you can to be like the early progenitor, the person that broke that first bit of land, and then everyone else thereafter was able to build upon your initial seed, not just simply I exist, I live, I eat, I die, and then my kids don't know me and whatever. And that's the fate I think of most people. But if you can create a legend, just being part of that, I think there's a sense of not wanting to break the chain. Well, we came from a noble lineage. It would be a shame to be the one that dropped the ball. That's a way to influence positively, I think. People down the line, and that's something I think a lot about in terms of.
And that's very important.
Yeah.
And I feel like the word independence has gained its own. Like everyone takes it so literally.
Yes.
And it has no primary focus than your own self, and your own path. But you're not really thinking about, kind of like the process of a royal family.
Right.
They want to pass that down.
Right.
They're going to walk the line and make sure everything's good because, anyone that's part of this name is going to be set. They're going to be set with knowledge and wisdom.
It's not just the money and inheritance, but actual knowledge, ancestral knowledge. This idea, I think we touched on it on a previous episode a bit I recommended the novel Dune, and part of the plot line of it is this notion of ancestral memory, that through a combination of consuming hallucinogenics and meditation in this fictional universe, you can access and have conversations with your blood ancestors. You're facing military, in this case, the protagonist is a royal family that has other rivals. They span entire planets. And so the heir, his father was assassinated, and so he was thrust into power at age 15 with the expectation, okay, we're gonna put this 15-year-old in power, and then he's gonna fuck up, and then we can just basically pick his empire apart. And he ends up rising to the occasion and surprises his opponents, who set in motion his father's death.
Yeah.
And so that's the story of Dune, and part of it was him accessing his ancestors' memory and being able to connect with those who have came before him and talked with them effectively, facing difficult dilemmas that no living advisor could help him with.
It's kind of similar to Avatar, both the James Cameron movie and the TV show, like for kids.
I have not seen the TV show. I didn't realize there was a TV show for kids.
So the animated TV show for kids, Avatar: The Last Airbender, only one person gets this ability to contact their previous versions of themselves, and that is the Avatar, because it's one spirit that
inhabits.
It lives inside the whoever it chooses, and
Got
that
it.
person becomes the Avatar, so they can go back to their previous iterations of themselves.
Okay.
And like ask them questions like, what was it like to fight that guy, or like how did you approach this situation? Or in the James Cameron Avatar, the movie,
yes,
they use their hair,
the
limb.
tail, whatever.
Yeah,
thingy,
their tail hair thing, and then they plug it into the tree, and then they connect, and then they actually talk, like communicate with their ancestors that are literally passed on through this tree and through nature on their planet. And I thought it was cool that you brought up the grove of your ancestors.
Yes.
Because when I was in high school, my English teacher actually thought of this idea. He's like, why isn't there like a place where you can go to where you can turn your like your family members into trees? So my friend and I started researching it, like looking at plots in California for land, and there's a whole bunch of weird laws about natural burial in some states. They get very weird about it.
If it's rural, it's on your own land. It's like, yeah, you know what? We're just gonna not talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Just
Whatever,
don't
man.
tell
You have a whole
anybody.
acreage.
Yeah.
It's sick,
Yeah. But you were like, if I could bury my, I don't know, family member, loved one, myself, and then plant a tree around them. Well, there's actually things that exist like that already. And they call them natural cemeteries.
Right.
And they use things like this. What we're showing right now is a big pot, and around the outside, and there's an inner pot.
Right.
And that inner pot shell is made out of your cremated remains.
Interesting.
Which houses like a lot of carbon and nitrogen, which fuel the soil like crazy.
Yep.
Which help that tree grow.
Yeah.
So in a sense, here's your way to
There it is.
the garden of the ancestors.
I never understood what the obsession was, at least a societal obsession, with like casket burials and all of this. Like, I mean, maybe I'm more of a naturalist, so I'm like, put me in the earth.
Yes.
Allow all the other organisms to take advantage of my body.
Right.
Do you want to know who it dates back to, actually? One of the big reasons for a casket burial? Abraham Lincoln.
Huh.
Yeah.
Go on.
How so?
When he died, they what is it called? They embalmed his body. So took all the fluids out of him and put in other stuff like what was that thing that was in
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's in or it used to be in Fireball, if you knew that. Or not. Yeah.
Oh my
So,
God.
anybody
Yeah.
who enjoys, I think they took it out now, but
Jesus.
it used to be.
Go
But
on, yes.
yeah, they embalmed his body, pumped him full of formaldehyde and a bunch of other stuff, preserved him, and then they took him around the country.
Right.
And so that's when embalming became very popular. And then you're like, oh, well, if you got this preserved body, you want to keep it in something that's nice. So that's when casket upgrades started to roll in, and then the funeral industry really
Cash in on that.
Yeah.
It's a very sinister industry. You're selling things to someone that recently just lost someone they loved.
Oh yeah.
They're literally the most emotionally vulnerable state they'll ever be in their life.
Yeah.
And well, you can show how much you love grandma by spending $30,000 on a
An
casket
absurd
instead of
amount of
$100,
money.
right?
Yeah.
No, that's exactly the industry. That is the industry.
And the majority of these mom and pop places are actually owned by like one or two
Big
giant
conglomerates.
corporations. Yeah.
And so they have salesmen that they're every single day people come in grieving. They just lost their grandma, and it's like, okay, well, you can the cardboard box is going to be like $10. But if you really want to show grandma how much you loved her,
That is sinister.
allow me to
bro.
show
That is
you.
sinister.
That is
There's $30,000, and we have credit, so you can do it on layaway.
Yeah.
If you can't afford it now, you can pay for it over time.
Got down
all
payments.
the things you didn't get to do with grandma. That if you have any regrets about her, you can express your regret through money.
Oh my
Basically,
God.
money you give to me.
taking advantage of
It is an
alive
insane
people.
industry,
It's
and it is
wild.
very lucrative. It is so unless that's the thing is if you don't have plans for it, your grieving family might end up spending a lot of shit on stuff that obviously you're not around to enjoy.
It's true.
And it's like It's absolutely a fascinating and dark industry because it is people at their most emotionally vulnerable.
I remember I saw a coffin store at in a mall once.
Oh yeah.
What?
Oh, beautiful.
Like it's like an open Brookstone.
It's like right
come
next to
try our
Cinnabon.
coffins.
Yeah. Try it out, man.
Yeah.
Right next to
coffee.
Yeah, like how do you even get greeted? Imagine getting greeted there.
Right next to the Bed Bath and Beyond.
My
You know what's
condolences.
wonderful?
How are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what's wild to me? The people that go shopping for their casket.
Well,
They're
it's
like,
people,
I want to give it a test drive before I'm in it.
Listen, it's the people with egos. They have this
I
idea.
can get it.
Yeah, or I'm a man of environment.
Well, it's like
Let me choose my
I won't
material.
be around. It's purely done for the benefit of the surviving family members, but it's also it's done in a way where they're forced to make a very large decision, and any decision less than like whipping out your wallet and paying for the max amount feels like, oh, well, you didn't really love your grandma that much, did you?
Wow.
It's an industry that can equate how much money you give me with how much you love so and so.
Oh my god.
Freaking fascinating industry,
It's
right?
like the ring industry.
It's the ring. I was just gonna say. I was looking because just got engaged. So I looked into like the Tiffany's industry is absolutely fascinating. They got a brand that's so powerful that take a guess like how much first off, you go to Tiffany's, that the only way to get one of those boxes is to buy a ring. But because how valuable that the branding of how powerful that their boxes are, you can sell their empty cardboard boxes that people of authentic Tiffany rings. Guess how much the boxes go for? Just the box with no ring in it. That
Okay,
people will
I'm just gonna
buy to put other less expensive rings in to propose.
Okay, I'll take a guess.
Take a guess.
No, go for it.
600.
600 for the box?
I don't know.
No, I was gonna say like
It sounds absurd.
Is
I'm
he
just
hot
saying,
or
like,
cold?
for a Tiffany's box, like $150.
$150. Go look up eBay.
Still, okay.
eBay. You look up like Tiffany's box.
Yeah. Well, we
It's-
surpassed 100,
amazing.
which is insane.
It's literally that's how the branding is. That
God, dude.
yeah.
Did I miss the? Yeah, I missed it again. My bad.
BOX.
There we go.
See? Oh,
You
see.
can have
$275 for a small box.
Yep.
Oh,
blue
1600
leather.
for the
Yeah.
Globetrotter.
Nah, it's
The
blue.
actual-
It has blue
It's like the
leather
ju-
though. Come on.
But that is the box, and then go to eBay and you can see like an entire business of people selling empty used Tiffany's boxes.
Just the
Oh
tissue paper
my
and the
God.
ribbon, $325.
Yep.
This guy, I'm gonna be out there in the dumpsters. just selling
Yeah.
stuff.
Lord.
Yes.
Literally.
It's fascinating. Anyway, so it's an industry that if you are on the other side of it, it's very lucrative, but it's a
Yeah.
very dark industry because you're sitting here, people that aren't able to they feel secure about their affections and their love for the people in their lives. This is a way to, you can make up for all your deficiencies by giving me money. The more you give me, the more you show how much you love so and so. If you can be the receiving end of that kind of business, it's basically infinite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Well,
and this is in that
I
category.
wouldn't feel too bad about being heartless. I'll just be like, listen, man, I'm realistic.
Grandpa knows
I
what
was
he
I was
wants.
going to mention that. Does it primarily cater to people who are more agreeable? Like
Probably,
more
yeah.
agreeable
Yeah.
people?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
more compliant with existing social norms, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like in my case, I got so mine so the engagement with us actually it took a lot longer on my end because we have an age difference, and so one thing I did was I bought it was born in the 70s. I won't say the exact year, but it was like I have a 1970 something Cougarant. It's if you ever buy gold, gold is minted and the year is minted on as well. They're sold in troy ounces, and so I have a 1 ounce gold coin minted the year I was born. It's exactly 1 ounce. So if gold is trading at $1,500 an ounce, that's $1,500 worth of gold in there or whatever.
Yeah.
I bought it when it was a lot cheaper, but and also the year she was born, 1990 something. And so the original idea was that I had this coin for a long time. With the year I was born, when we started dating, I felt pretty sure early on. Bought gold with her year as well, and then found a jeweler here where I was able to have the gold basically without the year part intact, the flat part of the gold coin drilled out with the shavings from that saved, and then melt that down to form rings out of them. So the idea was that the gold that was minted the year I was born, gold that was minted the year she was born, and then the coins, which will remain intact with the years inside, we'll encase those in acrylic. And that'll be
That's
Wow.
That is awesome. Yeah.
so it's far more, I think, symbolically significant something that is than just, oh, well, I went to Tiffany's and they said that my credit limit allowed them to buy 20 grand, so I borrowed 20 grand.
Yeah, there we go.
Start our marriage off right.
3
Yes.
times
Yeah.
salary.
Add a little
Right.
thought to it. That's nice.
Right. So that's the idea, was that. And she asked me, like, how soon did you buy the my year? And I was like, well, about 2 months after I started dating. But I didn't want to like. It was good. It was a call option.
He knew.
Because it was like, okay, if it works out, then it sounds romantic. If it doesn't work out, I still have gold that I can.
Yeah.
still
Yeah,
useful.
yeah.
Win-win.
Absolutely.
Right? I didn't say anything, right? I didn't. I covered all my bases. If it was the romantic option, it would sound amazing. Like, oh my, 1 month in, I knew. And if it didn't, I still have an ounce of gold. I can just sell it, whatever I want with it. So I felt like tactically, it was both tactically, it was both male and female in terms of like, it was very emotional, very
This man's genius.
but it's also like, all right, but in case it doesn't work out, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I spent 2 months and I spent this money on the fucking thing. I can't take that.
Yeah.
I got a name tattooed to my arm. Right? It's
Damn
like,
it.
it's still gold. Like, just add it to my stash of like a dragon, just collecting gold coins I sleep on top of every night.
I'm just gonna say right now, the tattoo, not a good move.
No,
in
never.
any relationship.
No.
No matter how long
No.
you're gonna be together.
No.
Exactly.
Just if you're gonna be together forever,
Yeah.
she knows.
Yes.
Right? You don't need to tattoo her on your body to
No.
prove.
Yeah.
Like,
The fact that you want the
dedicated to
tattoo
you.
is
Suspect.
Yeah. With big decisions, you have one night to sleep in usually.
Yes.
But you got to sleep on
you
this one like 4 or 5 times, man.
yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
like
So
a
that was-
week.
Yeah.
So this is something I'm interested to ask
Yes.
all of you and get your opinions on.
Sure.
Relating to the subject of mortality, at least for young people specifically. Do you think it's possible to teach people to be in touch with their mortality and then live their lives from that perspective? Or do you think that they have to experience death in order to really hammer it
literally
away?
experiencing death. I mean, how do you mean? How do you mean experience?
Oh, like
Not
someone
firsthand.
died.
No, not of course not firsthand.
right.
Like a family member
Family
passes.
members.
Yeah.
The idea is to find ways to connect them to it in a it's an unpleasant topic, and so we kind of reflexively avoid it, and it's one of those things that everyone kind of tap dances around. So I think the most useful things would be to we usually experience this because we live close to our grandparents and great-grandparents. No matter where we are, there's going to be someone in our bloodline that's near the end of their line. And so being able to interact with it, see them, and then ask them questions, I think is useful. I mean, in my case, my grandmother was all the way in Taiwan. And so she actually made it to 108, which was insane.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in fact, it was funny because when she was near the end, she was like 107, and she's like, my birthday's in a week. I got to make it to at least that, then I'll go.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. So she was like, all right, like just grit her teeth, and it's like, all right, she had like a whole birthday thing. She in the hospital, got a haircut and whatever,
Yeah.
and then like 2 days, okay, that's it. I can't do another 363 days. Like no, I can't do that. I'm too much pay for that. But just I want to make it past this deadline.
Yeah.
Just go to the wire. Like all right, okay, fine, I'm out.
Call
Yeah,
it a life.
yeah.
We good.
Yeah.
Right.
Shout out to her though for being like, I'm making it.
So
to
that's
this.
that's some good longevity genes.
It's something that I don't shy away from because I've gone through it
Right.
multiple times.
yeah.
But when I talk to other young people about it,
Yes.
you can feel the hesitation.
Yeah, of course. It's this you don't because you haven't really thought it through, and therefore there isn't a sense of anything. It feels very abstract and unreal, and the fear is that talking about it would make it real. And so by not talking about it, we can pretend a little bit longer that it's not.
Yeah.
It's I imagine it's the equivalent of like the kid that realizes Santa's not real, but knows that if he lets on, then his parents are gonna stop buying him shit. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I totally believe it.
Yeah.
Oh Santa, I really
Yeah.
love. I hope I get it this year, right?
Don't
where
burst my
are
bubble.
you?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
If they know that it's just mom and dad, it's like, oh, then shit, no, I'm not gonna buy you that. That's not. But oh, it's so cute. He believes in Santa. I gotta buy it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel like young people are with death as well. It's like if I don't talk about it, I can kind of pretend it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
a
came
similar
across a lot
dynamic.
of people that actually have no emotions when it comes to death.
Interesting.
Like what? Like they're numb to it?
They're numb to it, or it's like, why is everyone crying?
They're psychopaths.
I mean, I've gone through that.
It's the only explanation.
Yes,
Right?
that's the thing. Is that, remember, it's not. We think of psychopaths as a sort of a Hannibal Lecter type from like the movies and stuff. The reality is, it's a fraction of the population that is simply they are the functional version of being colorblind. Like a colorblind person can still see, they just can't see color. Likewise, a psychopath is someone that just doesn't feel emotion the way you do. They see something. The expert on this, Robert Hare, is a criminal psychologist up in Canada, and he studied criminal psychology for like his entire career. And he was researching this in prisons and whatnot. And one of the things that was interesting that was talked about was that he would showcase people, regular people and psychopaths, like list of words. It'll be like tree, forest, rape, blah blah blah, and like and so the idea is that if you see these words, just seeing the word rape would like trigger like an emotional response, and normal people are like, ooh, whoa, right? And you see like tree, broccoli, helmet, and whatever. It doesn't register anything. Whereas a psychopath, they're all the same. They would completely flat affect across all of it. Like they're all the same to him. And likewise, the ones that are smart recognize that everyone else reacts a certain way. And so everyone's being freaked out about this dead person. I guess I better look sad too, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's similar to how like a colorblind person navigates through the world. Like they can drive, they don't recognize red, yellow, and green, but they go okay, top, middle, and bottom. So they're using sort of external cues to kind of navigate a world that organically they don't really get. And most of the times they'll kind of fit in unless the couple of moments you see like, wait, you can't see color at all, can you? Right?
Yeah.
And likewise with psychopaths, if they're smart and they can blend in, every once in a while it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't mean anything to you, does it? They're like, wait, what? Who knows? What?
That is such a fascinating way to look at it.
It is.
Psychopath is like somebody who's colorblind.
Yeah.
But they're colorblind to emotion.
Yes.
It makes so much sense.
And so it's
You're
like,
welcome, visual learners.
and that's from the other thing that I mentioned on the Twitter thread was that think about the fact that so Robert Hare's his view is that about 3% of adult males and 1% of adult females have what he refers to as psychopathic tendencies, basically clinical psychopathy at some degree. And so if you take the population of North America, 330 million, 1% of 1% of females, 3% of males, that's on average 2%. 2% of 330 million is 600,000. 600,000 people. And if IQ is distributed normally, the top 2% of IQ, genius level IQ, would be 2% times that 600,000. There's about 130,000 genius psychopaths in America.
Interesting.
Genius level IQ, so we're talking like 130 plus, which means that they can't be caught by like law enforcement, which is typically 100 IQ. Right? So we have 3% of and so that's the thing. If you multiply those percentages together, there's about 130,000 or so genius level IQ people with psychopathic tendencies.
What a combination!
Wow. That's a pretty brutal combination.
I just think of serial killers, Zodiac.
Right, but that's the thing. They don't do serial. There's much more insidious and sinister ways. They are CEOs of these funeral home companies. You don't have to kill you. You can literally profiteer off of dying people. Right, have a bunch of little salesmen doing your bidding, and every time they oversell like a 40,000 coffin, you're the one supplying the coffins, and you generate, and all that money flows up into pockets that end up in yours. Like that's to run such an industry, to be at the head of. I don't know if I mentioned there was a flight I was on a couple of years ago where I have a terrible guilty habit of shoulder surfing on airplanes. If someone's working on a laptop and they don't have those privacy screens, I'm gonna be like,
yeah,
I do a bit of that myself as well.
Anything passes as entertainment.
And it's like, look, if you're not going to protect your screen, you got those privacy. I'm not going to be a jerk and completely,
Yeah.
But I was fascinated. So the guy I was sitting next to was in business class. So it was like some fancy, very expensive seat or whatever. And I realized I was fascinated by his presentation, but I couldn't like stare the entire time. So I put on my sunglasses and just pretended to be sleeping, just like.
Interesting.
And so the reason why I was so fascinated by this guy's presentation was that he was working on a bunch of slides for an upcoming presentation. He was tabbing between two separate programs, like PowerPoint, his presentation side, and then the other software company is called Stadia, Statia. It's a statistics package that normally retails for like $1,000 a year. So it's a very serious data analytics company. And so it's not casual Excel or Excel on steroids. It's a completely different level. And he's tabbing between these two. He's screenshots from various summary forms of Stadia, and then the PowerPoint. he was working on a presentation about how to improve yields, ticket sales of lottery tickets to the low-income communities. It's like, this is, we have a mechanism for sucking money out of the low-income communities. They're buying this many lottery tickets. How can we get them to buy more? That was his presentation.
Holy.
He had all this
one hell of a
demographic
formula,
stuff,
dude.
right? This is like the behavior of people on welfare. This is how much money they have.
Yeah.
They typically buy like this many tickets. And so what can we do to improve our ability to just dig into their pockets just a little bit more? Like, he's a data scientist. So my guess is that, to get to that level, you're probably like 120 IQ, 130 IQ would be about the right minimum needed to be an effective data scientist. So he's a data scientist doing a presentation to the executives. So he's using his like 120, 130 genius level IQ to most efficiently extract money out of the pockets of like low functioning 85, 90 IQ people.
Oh my god.
And I'm sitting again, I'm watching this. This is like, dude, I have so many questions now.
But I can't
Start a
ask.
conversation with you, but then I have to confess that I was like watching your presentation for the last 2 hours. Watching you tab between this like presentation to these executives, like, look, master, here's how I'm most efficiently like extracting money from the peasants. Good job, servant. Right? That's what he's on his way to. I'm like, wow, I have a lot of questions. This is a fascinating person. I would love to, but I have to confess, I've been watching your shit for the last 3 hours, and I don't know how to do that without sounding like a total asshole. So I was like, I let it go. I was like, oh, flight's over now. He's gonna fold up his laptop. I'm like, dude, this is I can ask him. No. Hi, I've been watching your presentation. I can't say anything. I'm just like, just watching back. Like, good luck at your presentation, bro.
Yeah.
Hope you get that bonus.
That'd be funny as soon as you wake up.
Oh man, and if you're a data scientist at that level, he's probably getting paid like, 250, 300 grand a year, which is a very fair wage for a data scientist. If he does his job correctly, he will in fact increase the ticket sales by millions of dollars on behalf of his bosses. That's him doing his job, is he can most effectively model their behaviors, figure out what works on them, and get them to splash out more, multiply that across like a whole bunch of poor neighborhoods, and as a result of his advice, they will make millions more digging into the pockets of the poorest people in the state. And it's like
insane.
It's insane, and it's like, what do you? This industry exists. Why he's getting paid a fair wage to do a fair data analysis. It's morally neutral, and yet there's something just feels morally very, very icky.
Yeah.
about the
Yes.
thing, right?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a disgusting feeling deeply.
Dark.
And you know what? That's just a lesson on. Sometimes you got to talk to people on planes. I'm just telling you right now, from the sheer entertainment value that you get
Especially
out of it,
in business
you
class.
learn some shit too from these people.
I couldn't though. This is why I had to just.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I was so fascinated. I've been wanting to talk to this guy for like an entire hour, and usually I'm not shy about starting conversations. But I was thinking, is there any way I can start a conversation without looking like I've been spying on him the whole time?
Yeah.
right.
Ask him about his
It's like
computer.
the more you go on, the worse it gets.
Oh yeah. I was
There's
like,
no,
I just
would
have to like
fine at the beginning.
just push it all down, just like, oh my god, behind my sunglasses, like, oh shit,
Learn some inner
Ah,
secrets.
this is so dark.
And that's the thing. It could be confidential. I mean,
Probably, that's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. That's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like, first of all, you should protect your screen, bro. Like, that's the first thing you should.
Especially for your position,
So,
man.
given what you do, you just freaking like, you don't know who I am. I'm
Yeah.
just working on this top secret
Which
shit
again,
about
that could get people fired.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
Because
I
I know a
can
lot of people like
easily-
in the finance.
Oh,
world,
yeah. There's
where
a
they're
lot of
traveling a lot and
proprietary
they're
stuff.
writing papers.
Yeah.
Easily,
It's like,
yeah.
Confidential
you
shit.
need to-
But it's like, come on, just like
Here's the thing
Privacy
that I've
screen.
realized
Yeah.
though.
Yo.
Unless these people have NDAs,
Yeah.
they want to talk about this shit.
Mm.
I've experienced that on a couple fronts, and especially about this time. I don't know if I told this story about when I was coming back from, or I was going to Oklahoma, and there's this guy sitting next to me, and he's just scrolling through pictures on his phone, like looking at shit, and it's big industrial, like big pistons and stuff. And so I'm like, I just started, hey,
What is that?
what phone are you using?
Yes.
Like I look over, I know what it is. It's a Samsung S9, if I remember correctly. And we just start talking about the phone, and I'm like, oh, so you obviously wanted a good camera. Like, what are you taking a bunch of pictures of?
Yeah.
And so then he started going into it.
Spill the beans.
He's like, I got this big piston manufacturing company or hydraulic press manufacturing company, and he works with people in India and China. And he was telling me about he just got back from, I think it was India, and he said after being there for 2 hours, he already developed a lung infection.
Oh my god.
Because the air was so bad.
Yeah.
Like within 2 hours, he was like developed a cough.
Oh my god.
And by hour 3, he was coughing black stuff out of his lungs.
oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
I was in India.
We're not going to India.
And he was, but he said this, and this is a guy from Oklahoma, like real slow, real southern. Like when he talks,
When he talks.
he leaves room in between his words for you to listen. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it really draws you in when he
Yeah.
talks. And he was like, I'm not a big vegan. He's like, it's not my forte. But I'll tell you right now, I tell you what, they had some of the best chickpeas I've ever had in my goddamn life. I'd never eat meat again if I could have this at my house. Like,
Oh my God.
And he's just telling me all this shit and about secret stuff he's doing in China.
Yeah.
And like all of that. And not just planes. Uber drivers, taxi driver, anybody who's like assisting you, or if there's somebody you can talk to.
Yeah.
Like I was one time, this is a story that I've been relucting to tell on the podcast. And I will tell it now because we have such a special guest
I know this
in
one.
the room.
I know this one.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So when I was in Boston, I was going to go take this test to transfer into a different school, right?
Bast.
And while I'm on my way to this other school to take this test, take an Uber because I don't have a car. And the guy who's driving me is definitely Russian, Ukrainian, something like that, right?
Okay.
So I'm talking to him like, oh, what is it like growing up in Russia? Because I just assumed based off the accent. He's like, not Russia, Ukraine, the specific region. Tells me all this shit.
Right.
I'm like, what are you doing in the U.S.? Just like, and he's like, I'm going to school. I'm like, oh shit, really? What are you learning? Computer science. Oh, really?
Suspect.
What are you gonna do with that computer science? And he's like, let me tell you. I will. He's like, it's
Let me
crazy
tell
shit.
you.
And he breaks it down for me. He's coming to the United States with incredibly minimal money, which a lot of it was being subsidized by this company he was going to go work for in Russia.
Oh boy.
And you know what this company in Russia does? Just take a guess.
Social media?
You're 100% right.
On the money.
Aha.
Social media to a T. And what they do is they cause civil discourse or civil unrest within the United States via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
Amazing.
shit like that.
He confessed that to you? That's interesting.
He told me that.
Amazing.
And I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, and is there only one place? He's like, no, they're all over the place. Many corporations. And he's like, it makes a lot of money.
Okay.
He's like, you can make
money. I'm assuming it's being spent then. I mean, like, so wait, it's this. Okay, but go on.
He told me it was the equivalent of like 90 to 120,000 US, which in the country that he came from, you're essentially a billionaire.
Right. So getting paid that to. Why come all the way here versus just simply doing it remotely via VPN though?
He said just the education here was better and quite like they have a lot of what was it? It was like what's the word I'm looking for? Tuition costs to get covered for out of state people, and especially if you get sponsored or picked up, if the school likes you enough, they'll give you
Ukraine and Russia are hostile to each other though. So if it would be very, very strange for a Russian op to be using Ukrainians.
He was either Russian or Ukraine. I don't remember which one. But
I was going to say, because they're very touchy about being misidentified as one versus the other. Just like people from India are very annoyed if you call them Pakistani or vice versa. They will correct you. And so it would be. This is why I'm curious about it, because if he was in fact, because everyone assumes Russia, so it's usually the Ukrainians that have to kind of correct people. That if you're Slavic sounding, most people just assume you're Russian. Statistically, it's a larger population. And so that does make sense, but then it makes me wonder if it isn't a Ukrainian op, what are their motivations? They'll be very, very different in many ways opposed to Russian initiative. Anyway, this is just my own no,
you're right. You're right. And I had those questions.
Spies.
I had those questions.
Yeah.
And I asked him, and he was honest. He was like, it was Ukraine, Russia, or is Yugoslavia still a country? He was something Slavic, and he was from this incredibly poor village,
right?
Where it was like his house had one outlet, and it ran like part of the day.
Yes.
So it's like it was rough, and this was the only way that he could make money in a realistic sense for him. So he could essentially pull a Drake and like buy the block, right? And just like fix up the community a bit, make some money in the process. Was what he told me.
I buy everything,
whether you believe it or not. That's what he told me.
Yeah, it's up in the air.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
So I was like, there was no other way. And he was like, to make money in my country, this is the best way. And I was like, damn.
Dude, you have a good Russian accent, first of all.
He might be a Russian
Yeah,
spy.
maybe he's the Russian spy.
Who knows?
Misinformation.
Oh yeah, it's one of my friends. It was like
Who's this
Uber.
guy?
I was like, it was this guy
is
I
Uber
met.
driver.
This is my normal accent. My American accent is good, no?
Yeah.
It's very good.
He's fine.
good.
Yes.
I tricked all you all for all these years, thinking I was American. Oh, I finally can draw up character. I can be myself. My real name is Dimitri.
Change
course
the
it
story
is.
enough to where you're
Yes.
not lying.
Oh my goodness.
My God.
Aye.
But yeah, it was just the people, the stories you
Absolutely.
hear from people, like in the same scenario. Uber on the way back from the school.
Yeah.
I have this Cuban dad, told me he immigrated to the United States, started a family. He had no money, and he's driving for Uber to like pay for his kid's school or something like that. And he told me just the most heartwarming story. He's like, amigo, family's all we got. He's like, at the end of the day, he's like, friends, they'll leave. They come and go, but your family, they stay.
Your familia.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I'm about to start crying in the backseat. And he's like, I love mi hija more than anything in the world. I'm like, dude, I'm about to cry in an Uber. Like teaching me all these great life lessons about how to deal with family. And
So, moral of the story is talk to people.
talk to people.
Not
you'll
only
learn
does it
a
get
lot.
you open-minded, but it's like traveling. That's what you do when you travel. You don't know shit, so you're asking people.
Open-ended
You're
questions.
traveling the intellectual realm.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
It's crazy, man.
It's fantastic. Talk to people. That's the lesson to take away from this.
Literally.
Unless you just start spying on their laptops, at which point you're just like, I spent like an hour that flight trying to figure out some conversational pretext that I can use to like,
Where is my open door?
yeah,
Use
Yeah. So these seats, huh?
yeah.
if you know technology, like just a little bit, enough to get your foot in the door,
Yeah.
it works quite a bit.
That does help.
Yeah,
Just have
I've noticed that. Just it's like, how are you liking the AirPods? How are you liking the whatever it is you're rocking?
Yes.
What about your shoes? Like,
yeah. Yeah. Pretend like you know them.
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
start something basic and then
Right.
like,
Exactly.
Work,
try to see where it'll go.
have a conversational pretext.
Exactly.
Hey, man, you're kind of cute.
Yo, you look
I don't think
mighty
that's the
fine
best
in
way
them
to start it.
jeans.
Oh my god.
Where'd you get them jeans, son?
Oh man.
And speaking of conversation topics, one
Gotcha.
that I feel like has kind of fallen under the rug as of recent are aliens.
For the importance of it.
Oh my god.
And it's a big topic. And there's a whole lot of hocus pocus I'm going to say is involved with it still. Like, is it real? Is it not? But we do have a couple steps that kind of got us closer to if they're real or not. Right?
All right.
Like we had the documentary The Phenomenon. Zayd and I just watched that the
I'm
other
convinced
day.
they're real now.
And The Phenomenon, for those who don't know, is a documentary that just dropped a couple weeks or a month ago in 2020. And they brought on a whole bunch of high-ranking government officials in the past, that served in the past or were currently serving. And they also brought in a lot of ex-military guys that were high-ranked in their positions. For example, dudes that flew the B-52 bombers, like to Hiroshima or Nagasaki. Like, you know.
Not people who want to make
Not-
shit up for the
Exactly.
sake of
Not
it.
people who are going to lie about shit like this, right? And there's a whole bunch of crazy stories, some that we're going to get into. But the main one I wanted to start with, just because it's a good foundation for this conversation, is with a guy named Harry Reid. Now, Harry Reid was the Senate Majority Leader from 2007, 2015. And he was actually tasked back in the Bush administration with starting an alien task force.
Huh. Special sector.
No shit. This man got designated to start a task force that looks out for information regarding aliens. Now, that includes all of the people that are listening in on, you know, those like big fields that they have where there's huge satellite dishes where all they do is they scan the sky for like radio.
Yeah.
He works with people like that. He gets all of the first-hand accounts from people that have seen aliens or claim to see aliens. That was his job, was to filter through all that shit. And maybe some possible CIA, FBI involvement. He was working with all of them as well.
And he's a former politician?
Former politician.
Retired, I guess.
This documentary just brings out too many high-level people for you to
Yeah.
to argue.
Wonder like what's going on. Either they're all in on it for whatever
Yeah,
crazy
exactly.
reason, or
Maybe that's the goal, is that they want him.
You always have to kind of figure out like if it's
Yeah.
if it's not. I mean, think about it. This documentary was created. It was thought about, scripted, budgeted, approved, and released, and the CIA didn't stop it, right? If someone in the government says, hey, listen, we need to shut these guys down, they're getting too close to truth, someone would have had a phone call, someone would have had a car accident, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's not just some clandestine released video that you have to BitTorrent out or whatever. It's normally, what was that on Netflix or something? Was it?
It was
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime.
Oh,
it was
okay.
$4 to rent.
Oh,
Nice.
Well,
Yeah. And you know what? That's a good point, right?
But
Where
it's
it's like,
released.
oh, everybody must be in on this, right? And the first thing that I think in my mind is back in 2019 when the Navy released that footage of the Tic Tac that was flying around. So we already have a government-sanctioned agency, or at least a member of the armed forces or branch,
A trusted one.
and they dropped that.
Right.
Then the CIA a couple months later was like, yeah, we don't know what the fuck that is. And then later, we get this documentary.
Right.
And then next, we get an ex-Israeli security chief says that extraterrestrials exist, more specifically, a galactic federation
Those are quite a
has
combination
been
of
waiting
words.
to reach out to humans, but we need to, as a species, be ready for them.
Right.
And
This
that's
idea.
apparently what's holding us back.
Right.
And this guy claims Trump knows about it, according to this article. I didn't even know about that shit. Because in the documentary, and this stems back to the everybody must be in on it,
Right.
there were secrets that were actually deemed above top secret.
Yes.
Or too top secret.
Not even the president could access it.
Yeah.
Right? No.
To have a security clearance of that level it's beyond the president.
Right.
And even Clinton, there's an interview where he was asked, are aliens real? And he was like, well, I was trying to find out if aliens were real. And I dug in deep and
Not deep enough.
it was too top secret.
Yeah, I'm sure he
If
dug
it's
in
real,
deep.
I couldn't find it.
That's a fantastic Bill Clinton voice.
Thank you.
That is very well done.
Thank you.
I mean, listen,
impressed.
we won't know until these motherfuckers land on Washington D.C. and we can all see it.
Here's okay. Do you remember this thing?
But we
from
do
the
have the account.
documentary?
Yeah.
There was a couple instances that were spoken about in the documentary where aliens actually intervened with military operations, which sounds batshit, right?
Like nuke sites and everything.
Yeah, and these are actual sheets. They pull up the blacklisted pages that the CIA or FBI, I forget which organization, released in depth explaining this.
Okay.
And one of them was a UFO flew over a nuclear silo site in the U.S., and it just had this laser that was shooting out of the bottom of it that pointed directly to where the warheads were at.
Right.
Like through the ground, just pointed at random spots, but they calculated the trajectory of it right to the warhead.
Yes.
And once it was there for like, what was it, like 5 or 10 minutes, and it pointed out every single warhead,
Right.
it just dipped to that thing where they call it, it's like it moves unbelievably quickly, right?
Right. So these are like drones of a major like mothership, basically.
Or maybe they're piloted, we don't know.
Right.
So that's up in the air.
So to speak.
And then there's a crazier account with the Soviets. This was the one that made me.
Yeah, they definitely have some shit.
Yeah. And the Soviets, it's another document. They pull it up and they detail a fucking flying saucer. Like they drew it out in the Soviet document what it looked like.
Damn.
And it was glowing red. And when it rolled up to the site, instantly, every single one of their nuclear warheads went from calm mode or peaceful to combat ready, which means in 15 seconds, all of these motherfuckers are going to go off.
Right.
Like they're leaving the silo.
Right.
And so all of the Soviets are freaking out.
Right.
Like, what are we going to do? And so they just immediately go to manual override to shut everything down.
Yes.
And so they essentially stopped the world from ending in 15 seconds.
Interesting.
And it was all due to alien intervention, according to this document.
Oh my God.
Well,
So Kai, the real question is this: do you believe we're being visited?
it would be surprising if we're not, I think. Well, I have a larger, more meta view about this, which is, I mean, you've probably heard about the whole simulation theory. That,
Yes.
Yeah.
So to whatever extent you believe it, one thing, and this is something I talked about at length with Corporate Machiavelli on our, not on the podcast, but privately, was that think about it from the perspective of if, in fact, we are living in a simulation, if we are all AI and some gigantic AI overlord masters is running, then the survival strategy should be to live a life that is so interesting that your AI overlords can't bear to watch your particular story end. That's what I said to him as well. Is like, this is a if you feel like you're gonna die, like imagine if you've seen the movie The Truman Show, right?
Of course,
Well,
with
yes,
Jim
that's
Carrey
Jim
and
So-
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the short version for those listening in who are not familiar, the plot of it is that Jim Carrey plays a character named Truman Burbank, who is the first corporate owned, like from he was born, he was adopted, his parents died or whatever, and so he was adopted by a corporation. The intention was to turn a reality show in which he himself is only oblivious. Everything else is a set. He lives on a set. And ever since he was a kid, all of his childhood friends, his parents, whatever, every single person in his life are all actors. And he's live streamed around the world 24/7.
Yeah.
He turned like, I think, 29, 30 or whatever. And so he's still, it's like the long running show. People watch him as a baby. People like tuning in. So the idea is, if in fact your life is a Truman Show, like there's millions of fans in some distant planet, would they be upset if your story was canceled prematurely early? Live your life in such a way that if you have indeed a Truman Show, like if your life is a Truman Show in some distant universe, make sure that the day your show is canceled, there'll be large, loud protests.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that should, I think, also, if they can influence your mortality anyway, they would certainly influence it for you to live a little longer, a little more.
Interesting.
They entertain your audience well enough that they would want to see the next chapter. They go, no, don't end it now. No, he's got cancer. Just make him live to 150. It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll create some miraculous cure. I know it's bullshit,
more
but
entertainment.
we need it. Like, it's just, I know it doesn't fit the goddamn plot, but it has to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, feel free to fix your mic if you like.
Oh.
Yeah, you can bring it down.
No, it's fine. This is perfect.
Yeah.
This is perfect height.
Sorry, I was trying to Google. There was a physicist who came up with it's like an algorithm or an equation. I would say it's more of like an algorithm about how deep space organizes itself. And it's similar to that in a fashion of how data is stored and processed on a large scale computer server.
Huh.
Like how atoms arrange themselves like within space. And I was trying to pull that up because it was like a huge proponent to the universe as a construct or a what's the word I'm looking for?
Procedurally generated reality.
Exactly. Yeah. That was like one of the big argumentative points for it. And when he dropped this theory, he was on stage, I believe, with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, for those who don't know, the famous famous physicist,
Yes.
and he was like the sexiest scientist alive back in the day.
Really?
And yeah, he's a genius, and I love him to death. He's like one of the best dudes out there in the science community. And he was on stage. He's like, "What did you just say?" It's like the craziest shit. And I wish I could find it. For some reason, I can't. It's like Google's trying to block me from finding it. But
There's a lot of stuff that's been dropping off of Google. That's the other thing that I noticed. This is one of those other, like, you can call it a conspiracy theory or whatnot, but there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of topics in which there's like debate on that's not political, that all of a sudden you get like the official narrative. Someone was making this observation, like, should children get vitamin K shots? And you remember there were debates about it. If you Google it now, there was only one perspective. All of a sudden, the entire like swaths of, political stuff for obvious reasons. There's a lot. The tech industry has a strong favoring of particular partisan preferences than others, and so positive stories about some factions are wiped out. Negative stories about them are amplified. That much we accept as reality. But even like non-political things that are controversial, a lot of them, they're just, this is the official narrative. Their alternative narratives just don't exist anymore, and we're constantly having our memories being re-edited. The other funny thing someone made the observation that like in the because of music being now all digital, there's a lot of rappers that in the 80s was dropping a lot of saying the word faggot a lot in their like rap songs back then, and now they're being live edited out where they're being remastered without the offense. So that's like, oh yeah, I never said that. And so you have these rappers that have their 80s albums basically sanitized,
Oh my
so
God.
that they can be congruent with current norms.
Yeah.
And that's
Stay
considered
current.
normal. And then, so you have like an actual old CD or tape. That's the only evidence left of their previous thought crimes.
So it kind of reminds me of the Mandela effect.
Yeah. Right. We're actually intentionally re-editing everyone's memories.
It's Black Mirror stuff right there.
It's planned Mandela effect, essentially.
What was the
What if they're all planned?
The Bernstein Bears?
Cue the Twilight Zone.
what was the thing with Facebook that you wanted to mention?
Yes, that actually ties in beautifully.
It's a giant
Ties into
lawsuit.
talking
Google and all
about right
that.
now. Have you heard
48
about this,
states?
Kai, about all the Facebook stuff that's been going on?
I don't know. That's there is a a bunch of states, have I known, sued Facebook for monopoly behavior, and there's definitely a lot of weird skullduggery going on behind the scenes. But
48 states filed lawsuits against Facebook for essentially protecting a monopoly. Is what they're doing. They're buying out industry and controlling the social media front. Which
Listen, I'm not surprised. It's
An illegal monopoly.
So the question then is, 48 states, what are the two holdouts?
Probably Hawaii.
Probably California.
California, where it's headquartered, and then what's the other one?
That's actually a good question.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I understand. Like, so it's...
What states didn't sue Facebook?
Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama. Okay. What else?
Alabama.
What do we got here?
Well, it's one of the four
Wait, go
states,
up.
so.
Hold up.
South Carolina, South Dakota, right? So Alabama,
Oh,
Georgia,
it wasn't even
South
California?
No.
So the question
What?
is why?
Interesting, right? This is more interesting to me than the ones that did. What are they doing?
Huh.
I mean, think about I guess
It's weird.
small governors, smaller states are easier to bribe and control. Imagine how much juice you would have to how much either dirt you have to have or how much money you have to shovel to get like a powerful person like Gavin Newsom or Cuomo to be on your side.
Yeah.
Whereas a state, a billionaire can probably buy like a state senator, a state governor. Small states, it's like, look, I'm a billionaire. I'll like throw 100 mil of my money to back one of things. That's doable. Whereas, bribing and influencing and intimidating a larger state governor would be a far more formidable task. You need to be far richer and be far more ideal. There's an expression in the spycraft called MICE, which is an acronym, MICE, of 4 different ways to influence and get someone to do what you want from a spycraft standpoint. If you want to get someone to steal, like, oh, this guy works at a missile factory, I want him to steal plans from me and whatever. If you work as a police officer, I want you to like let me know when you're investigating spies in the area so I can kind of get a heads up before we get flushed out. So MICE, M is money, like bribery. And that's why, like, sensitive positions, they actually ask you for your credit report. They want, if you're facing financial trouble, you can be easily bribed. You're swimming in gambling debts and whatnot, money. Whereas if you're financially independent, you try to give me $5,000. Like, money's nice, but I'm not going to compromise my integrity with $5,000.
Yeah.
So money is one. I is ideology. If they are already ideologically aligned with you, you can convince them, hey, look, since you're already a member, you already do all these things anyway. We're just doing a more extreme version of it that we can't do official channels. Can we help you out? Ideology. E is ego. C is coercion. That's we kidnapped your kid's sister, do it or she dies. And then finally E is ego. The idea is appealing to people's ego.
Is that more of like a self-interest type of thing?
So it's think of the most notorious the most notorious case in American espionage, Aldrich Ames, came out in the 1960s. He was a low-level FBI agent, and the way that he was caught by the Soviets and basically betraying his oath of office in the FBI was that they appealed to his ego. He was a mid-level manager, not that important, but now as a result of dealing with Russian spies, all of a sudden he was dealing with the upper echelons. He was a frustrated middle manager that all of a sudden got treated like a rock star. Everything he said was super important, and so he felt important for the first time in his life. That's what they preyed upon.
Wow.
And so this is our Aldrich Ames. At the time of his arrest, 31-year, he's a CIA employee who was spying for the Russians since 1985. So he got caught and think of all the things, all of the secrets that he was able to pass along to Russians. I mean, agents got killed, compromised. I mean, entire operations got rolled up. And of course, they assumed they got caught through some other means, but it turned out he was a case officer who spoke Russian. There we go, right? And that was, and then for him, it was the ego part of it. The whole point of this is this idea of motivation, of how can you influence people to do things, and which tactic. Because in the spycraft environment, you have to make a quick decision as to which of these tactics you use. Coercion is you coercion and ego. Can't kidnap your kid's sister and then go, but you're a really smart guy. Sorry about that thing earlier,
Gotta choose one.
Hey, you're a real smart guy. You're really important. I want to make you feel like a good guy. And here's some money, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, you got to commit to a particular tactic and then stick with it.
So, one thing I noticed here is
Yes.
that there's a pattern that relates to a lot of films that you watch.
Yes.
Anything that has the KGB or USSR
Yes.
related.
Yes.
These countries, Ankara, Turkey, That's a specific city.
Mm-hmm.
New York City, Mexico City, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Those are a lot of mentioned. Washington, D.C.
Right.
Why do you think?
Well, these are centers of power, and so you have it's where everyone else congregates. The UN is in New York City, so every single diplomat is over there. Everything that and a lot of these operations involve diplomatic level access. They may not be personally involved, but something gets handed off to diplomat that then gets passed back home.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the closer you are to them, you don't want to do an operation and then have a bunch of stolen files. You got to truck across from like Idaho to an embassy. So it makes sense that major capital cities would be where a lot of the skullduggery happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Secondary cities less so. There's no reason to go all the way out there unless it's for a very specific thing.
We kind of talked about something similar to this on the podcast not too long ago, and it was like, why do we even allow lobbyists to be a thing, per se? Because it feels like a lot of lobbyists, or at least the ones that get most of their shit done, are just trying to convince a senator or somebody that's in a higher position of authority of, hey, we want to do this really shady shit. So let's throw some money your way.
Yep.
Hopefully as an incentive. Or we got all this other blackmail, but we don't need to bring that up till later.
Right.
Things get crazy.
Yes.
And
But that's why it exists, is that it allows the people that really run things to have a convenient way to launder their money. Because if you're a multi-billion-dollar company, think about $100 million, routed through a bunch of cutouts is nothing to you. And if you get the law you want passed, that's worth another like $1 billion of profit. It absolutely makes sense to spend $100 million to make $1 billion.
it's an investment.
It's an investment. And so why would you want to then kill off your own investment opportunities? You have now you have to be answerable to actual civilians who clearly have no stakeholder here. So that's it exists. Everything that we see exists because someone who's rich and powerful wants it exactly that way. It's intentional. If you feel like you're bewildered, it's not for you. If it feels like it doesn't make any sense, well, you aren't the target recipient of it. It exists to benefit and enrich particular people, and you're not in that club.
Yeah.
So Kai, with all of your, at least to narrow down on the corporate Machiavelli,
Yes.
with all of your conversations with him, is
Yes.
there any particular topic that really stands out to you?
I think this idea of cunning, as on our podcast, we talked about this idea of 7 different attributes that are predictors for success, and some are immutable, like IQ.
Yeah.
It's you're born with a particular kind of processing power, and that's it. If it's too slow, there's not much you can do about it. But you don't have to be that clever to be very wealthy. But whatever the processing power is, it's just static. The one most malleable and least worked on skill is cunning. This idea of it's sort of a combination of persuasion, being able to read people, being able to frame and reframe things, and that's something that can be leveled up. And my rejoinder to that is that I think a very effective and underappreciated way to develop cunning is to get involved in stage magic. That if every single mediocre magician, like 50th percentile, does like kids' birthday parties, makes like 15, 20 grand a year as a professional magician, like they can teach you things. If you just simply learn from them or learn enough to basically get to that level of skills, the skills that then can cascade forth in every other thing is immense in terms of
So it's basically kind of like a life hack.
It is. It's being able, because what does an average magician, just a mediocre magician, do? That they're able to steer your attention in the way that they want to. When a magician says there's nothing in my right hand, you should know that that's the last thing you should be looking at. Whatever he's doing, he's trying to draw your attention to his right hand, which means he's doing some shit with his left hand. But if you're a magician, you already recognize this. And if you can then successfully direct people's attention in those ways, in magic, there's a thing called a card force. It's a very basic maneuver, like 10-year-olds can do. Basically, it's the card force. The way it looks like a random selection of cards. I show you 52 cards, blah blah blah. It's totally, everyone is different, and then through a combination of either physical, psychological, or both trickery, I can force a card onto you, even though you thought you freely chose it, and that sets up a great payday.
Yeah.
You think it's a random choice. You pick out the 3 of clubs, And then I go, oh, did I get this thing? Did I get it right? Oh, wait a minute. And I show you like a 3 of clubs tattoo on my arm. It's like, wait, how?
Yeah.
Right? My card just and it slapped on my skin. So the magician, obviously, they're not going to tattoo 52 cards over their bodies.
Yeah.
They will have that 1 3 of clubs tattoo, right? And
Just tat it up.
don't look around it, right? So he gets that 3 of clubs tattoo or whatever, and then he's able to know where the 3 of clubs is in the deck, arrange it so that it's the one you point to. You pick it out of the deck, and you think you just pluck the card randomly out of the deck, but the reality is he forced it on you. And that kind of forces allow you to set up spectacular payoffs, like being able to say, oh, I'm gonna slap it on my skin. Is this your card? What? Right? Yeah. And that payoff is, but if you don't know if a person can genuinely pick any of the 52 cards, the kind of things you can do are more constrained. And so that's why a card force is so powerful. Now, I'm just describing to you in very like technical terms, but if you can actually execute a card force, think of how much more powerful you are in terms of being able to understand, direct attention, being able to arrange and move things in a certain way that's seamless to a civilian, and at the same time gives you massive negotiating power.
Wow.
So that's why like I've been a big advocate of, I mean, especially like mentalism books on magic tricks, more involving things like being able to guess what they're thinking. I'm going to ask you to think of a number. I want you to think of an animal, blah, 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 and then be able to accurately and again, have something like, oh, here's a printed, 10-foot tall thing that said that you're going to think of a blue elephant and number 62. It's like, wait, what the right? Clearly you didn't have a bunch of different things all printed out. So how did you have this one thing? And it's because he was able to steer the conversation through very subtle ways that you would end up randomly picking the exact thing that he's already prepped.
Yeah, I can imagine if you're a master of that, one business meeting and your life has changed forever.
Right? And that's a thing that can be learned by most people. And so it's a thing that I would encourage if you are interested in improving. I'm sure everyone's interested in improving their financial lot in life. That studying mentalism, stage magic is an interesting backdoor way to level up some skills that will pay off in the non-magic area. Because in the magic world, it's still it's like any other form of entertainment, very competitive, and there's tons of people that are doing very low end stuff, and a tiny handful that make a lot of money. And most magicians are struggling artists. But the skills, if you combine that with a client-facing role and dealing with very wealthy people, it can be an extremely powerful force multiplier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
So that's what I recommend for everybody is study, take some, pretend you're like a 9-year-old kid interested in a magic book and learning magic tricks, and then just go from there. There's a lot of stuff for like children and learning magic, and then just go from there, pick up a couple of books. Yeah. And from there you can level up.
Stick to the basics.
The corporate magician.
Yes.
Corporate magician.
Yes.
Create the prestige.
Yes, indeed.
Create the
Anything else you gentlemen want to touch on?
Well, I kind of want to touch on CIA agency.
Yes.
You do?
No.
How deep, really, or are you just fucking around?
How deep are you trying to go?
Oh, man.
Well, I refuse to believe that the CIA was, like, for example, when the Navy video of the Tic Tac floating around.
Yes.
Right? And they said, whoa, we don't know anything about this.
Do you think they actually know? They're just pretending they're playing dumb?
Yeah, they're playing dumb.
The CIA claimed that we've known about them for years. We don't know what they are, but we've known about them for years, I think was how the phrase went.
But the truth is probably they already know. They're like, God damn it, got on camera. Shit. Oh, yeah, we're aware of it.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is.
We've known it for
about
decades.
it. We're on it.
We're on the aliens.
But another thing is, like, if there's something that's so confidential and top secret that the president can't even get to, imagine being that individual that just knows.
Yeah.
You have to be one of the most powerful people on the planet.
Yeah,
if you have
but to me,
like
it's like, how do you even climb that ladder?
You don't climb it, you inherit it.
You inherit it, right?
It's given.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah.
See how there's like this whole royalty thing goes back? It's not just other countries. Oh, yeah. We just don't call it royal here.
No. It's
here, it's
bad
just
branding to say that, but it happens, right? It's bad branding to say royalty, but royalty doesn't mean like freaking Harry and Meghan. That's not royalty.
Yeah, people think of Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? Royalty.
Yeah.
Royalty does its work in the shadows.
Oh, yeah. The true kings are never visible. And so understanding that helps you kind of navigate the world that we live in, I think.
Yeah.
A little bit better, even if a little bit more paranoid. You're like,
Yeah.
And like that CIA guy that you're talking about, the hypothetical CIA dude.
The dude with the information.
When you get granted access to information such as that, how drastically does your life change after that?
I don't think you can walk alone ever again.
Because from that point on, you are no longer CIA security advisor.
Right.
You are now one of the most important people on the planet in terms of the stuff that you know.
Right.
So are they going to up the security around their house?
Absolutely.
Are they going to let you to talk to certain people?
Nope.
I'm telling
exactly,
you,
right?
they follow you. They know every move.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You're done. Dude.
Yep.
Say goodbye.
It's a very permanent kind of you're enshrined, and also then anyone else who's below you that wants your position knows that you're the guy to kill, and then they'll take your position. Like these are you don't really retire. You just eventually one of your impatient lieutenants assassinates you, and then they move up the rank, and you get buried, and you have some accident. That's what happens, right?
The car
Very few people have like you just die, at an old age, and then up in a hospital surrounded by your loved ones. It's like no, you sign up for this life.
Like that.
Yeah. You sign up for this life. You know what's up. Every one of your lieutenants underneath you would love to have your job, and eventually, you slip up.
You lose touch with the sense of your own nature.
Yeah, of course.
I certainly wouldn't want to live like that.
It's like the Nero reign in Rome, where it's like just all these high-ranking officials were just murdering the shit out of each other, left and right.
Down to what you ate, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they feed you.
Yeah.
They go, no,
So
you need red
gotta
meat
be
today.
on top of that, and
So that begs the question.
Yo.
Hypothetically, let's say all of us don't know each other and we all usurp the same position, just in different realities, let's say, right? Within the CIA, where we get offered, hey, there's a job that just opened up. It's the highest level position that you can get, or one of the highest level positions you can get in the world, hypothetically, right? And you're going to get access to something that the majority of the world has no clue exists. In fact, the majority of them deny that what this exists. However, if we give you this information, everything you knew about your previous life, how it operated, is gone. Are you taking that leap?
Nope.
No.
Oh, I'm totally taking it.
Interesting.
I'm taking it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Risk-taking guy,
so
huh?
down. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean,
right.
I can get
I
it
wanna
I can get it from you because you can just buy a plot of land and live how you want to live, right?
Yeah.
Just keep everything secret.
Not even that, because I'm assuming I'd have to be like very involved in the agency. So I'm going to be flying around to a lot of places, meeting a lot of cool people. There's perks to the job.
There's
Yeah, of
perks to
course.
it, but also the thing is you have to leave your we couldn't hang out anymore.
That's true.
Right? You would have
That's
to find
true.
a brand new set of friends because everyone's gonna ask. Like you would have to tell all your existing friends you died, or some shit, because it's like all of a sudden you can't talk about entire swaths of your life. You have to fake your own death, probably. And I mean, think this through. Again, I thought this through while you're saying this out loud. I'm like, okay, if I did that thing, every single person that I would know, either I had to commit to lying to them for the rest of their lives. Right? Because now I know the truth and they don't. So then if I tell them the truth, that's in violation of whatever secrecy I'm sworn to. So either I have to now commit to lying to my friends for the rest of my life, which I don't like. I would have to, or I just cut them off and be like, look, man, yeah, he died. Just one lie and that's it.
Jeez.
Those are my choices. Do I betray all my existing relationships for access to the thing? Also, someone else was online, it was suddenly offered to me, I have to wonder who the fuck that person is and how pissed would that person be that I took his job.
Yeah.
These things are not just like you just random lottery you won. It's like, okay, well, if I'm offered this shit and I wasn't applying for it, that means someone else really wanted it and they're looking at me going, this motherfucker got ahead of me.
You're probably creating hundreds of enemies just by accepting.
Existing, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking about. So it's like, that's why I would pass.
Interesting.
And you know what? You're probably right.
Yep.
And you're 100% right. However, there's
Still
one
going
perk
deep.
to me
Yes.
that
Motherfucker.
if it's true,
Yeah.
trumps everything in my mind at least. And that is I get the shot to potentially be the intergalactic diplomat for the planet. I could if we're at this point because we
This guy
don't
wants
know.
to meet
Wait, no,
aliens,
hold
bro.
up. Listen. We don't know if this is true or not.
Right.
But if we are already in talks with aliens, right? There's an established form of diplomacy.
Remember
for
then,
humanity.
you would be the lowest ranking and most recently read in person. You wouldn't be the diplomat.
Why would they
You would
choose
be
your
serving
ass?
the diplomat.
But no, that's what I'm saying. Like hypothetically, you get
You would be
upgraded
the
up.
bottom. You'd be the bottom rung. You'd be the guy sweeping the floors at the space whatever thingy. Like,
Do we know that though? But do we don't know the
ranking-wise-
position that's being offered though. That's the thing. That just we got.
But the fact that you're new to it, no one's going to offer the highest ranking position for the new guy. You have to get read in.
Well, I don't think
there's going to be an
I think
existing
in this-
hierarchy.
Well, if we're a security advisor for the CIA, I think we're a little bit more than the.
There's
new guy.
a high chance that the people who put you in that powerful position, the people who are more in power than you, more
Yes.
powerful than
They're
you,
setting you up for
are
something.
going to be.
Right, and they're setting you up for
diplomats.
something. They're offering the position so you can fuck up in some way and then pin all the blame on you.
Is that true though?
That was.
Maybe.
That was
It's-
I can
it's a
get both. I can
possibility.
get it.
I get the appeal, but that's
It's
why
a
I would
possibility.
pass. I would pass for that reason, is that these other secondary factors would make me go, all right, no one ever offers such a lucrative or powerful thing for nothing. And if I didn't even gun for it and I got it, that means something else is going behind the scenes. And I don't know what's going on. And at that level, there's a lot of subplots going on. There are entire swaths, there are entire allegiances of very powerful people that will dislike me and everything associated with my faction. I know nothing about it. And palace intrigue, if you're not involved, they're not going to care. But now that you're involved, you are part of you're someone's chess piece, and you're valuable, and your existence is a mortal threat to some factions now.
Listen. I would pass because I love my homies.
Yes.
Fuck aliens.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
And if you take that position, fuck you.
No, here's the thing.
Oh hell no.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't love you guys, right?
I'm about to
I
cry.
just love aliens
Obviously I
more.
Here's the deal.
He really does.
Here's the thing. If the simulation theory holds true,
Yes.
wouldn't I be trying to live my life in a sense that's so interesting
I get it. I'm with
that
I'm
that
with
our AI overlords would have no
choice but to keep you alive.
either to
But-
keep me alive or better yet to put on a damn good show.
Yeah.
Because you got two options, right? In that scenario. One, you get wrapped up in some shit,
Yep.
some crazy international conspiracy, intergalactic possible conspiracy that leaves the only thing that we've ever known really as home.
Okay.
You get wrapped up in that, you got pinned for the shit. What a crazy story. Or
Yeah.
you hypothetically get the chance to be the diplomat that I'm talking about. You get to bring on the merger of what was previously known as humanity into the new era of what we are, because what they will bring to the table will be so much more than anything we could even possibly imagine.
If that's the case, then why would they share?
That's the thing. If they wanted to take us over, don't you think they would have done it when we had
It's
bows?
not even worth taking over. I mean, the U.S. military could roll into a lot of these, like, you've seen these, like, isolated alien tribe, whatever things with the bows and arrows, and like, oh, if you come to our island, we'll kill you.
Yeah.
If the U.S. military wanted to, they can take over these islands. There's
Yeah, they
nothing worth
could.
stealing. That's the whole point. Like, there's nothing, which is like, yeah.
Is the resources available on the planet worth stealing is the question.
No. I think
And in my
at
mind,
that
I
level, you
actually
can
agree.
synthesize it.
I actually agree with you, though. I don't think it's worth stealing because you can find entire asteroids made entirely out of pure
Gold
gold
or whatever, right?
Or ice, which is water,
Yeah.
or like other
Yeah, the
shit.
other valuable things.
Yeah, that are probably way closer to wherever the fuck they live.
Exactly.
So I don't think they have a need to invade or anything like that.
I
feel
will-
like it's more of a welcome to the community
Maybe,
kind of thing.
Hold on. Maybe we're the aliens.
Well, we are.
And
relative
with
to them.
that,
yeah.
I'll allow you gentlemen to send us off because I have to use the restroom.
No worries.
Don't you worry, Zayd.
Go for it.
But yeah,
Alrighty.
that's always something where it's like to be the bearer of a new
I get it.
era of humanity
Yeah.
would be the
That'd be
coolest
interesting.
shit on the planet. And I don't care if anybody knows or not. It's only I know,
Okay.
right?
All right.
I would be a fan of that.
I just couldn't do it, man.
Yeah.
Like, I care too much. You know that if I do something, my entire family line is now a part of it too.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
everyone has to understand that it's just too complicated.
Yeah.
It's also the other thing is if you do manage to branch negotiations where aliens do come, then it's no longer a secret and you don't really have anything to worry about.
Yeah. That's true.
That's assuming everything goes exactly the way. Come on,
Exactly.
how many times have you been sold a job and it turned out not to be the job you were expecting? I'm old enough that I've seen this multiple times.
It's happened
like,
to me a couple times.
Right? So it's like,
Yeah.
And why do you think this will be any different? They'll sell you the
Who
shit,
knows?
you'll agree to it, and then it'll turn out to be something different.
It's
And now you're
possible.
committed. Now you've signed up for something in which the people that sold it to you lied to you, and now you have to do a bunch of. Instead of like bridging a gap, you're tasked with an international alien assassination squad. You're now going to be tasked to be a space marine to slaughter entire sentient life forms overseas, and that's your new job.
I would just look at whatever high-ranking official said that to me. I'd be like, no, you're fucking crazy. And here's the thing. No. Here's the thing. I would explain to him why that's a horrendous idea. So it's like, listen,
Okay.
you, Mr. high-ranking military official, so far above the president, right? Because this is a meeting that he couldn't get access to.
Okay.
You're telling me that we're starting a space marine squad to go take out aliens on a planet where, by the way, they can get here semi-instantaneously. For us, it would take a couple hundred light years to get there. So just in terms of traveling the distance, we don't even come close. We're taking steps, and they're sprinting like Usain Bolt. We're learning to walk. They're already up and running.
Yeah.
So for you to just insinuate that we need to be hostile out of the gate probably isn't the best approach. Because, I mean, there's also, in that documentary we were talking about, there's a scene where one of the jets is flying after a UFO, not the Tic Tac, a different one. And they're told to engage if they engage first.
Right.
And so they get within range to shoot the missiles. But just by them being in proximity with this thing, it fucked up every one of our one of our sensors. Our electronics were screwed.
Bro.
So it's like,
it's the Russians.
Are we gonna come after these people with Are we gonna come after these aliens with bullets and like
The point
a
of
jet?
it.
Are you kidding me? Like,
At that point, though, it's like they'll just lean back in his chair and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, there is a charge of plastic explosives that was embedded into your skull last time you were asleep. Play ball, or I push this button."
detonate it. Because if you attack them and prove that just out of the gate we were trying to be nice at first and then you were hostile, they're just gonna wipe you out.
Yeah. Right.
So you might as well kill me anyways. Because there's no point in keeping me alive unless you want to do this.
That's the point.
peacefully.
You don't know. The point of it is that you don't know what you signed up for until it's too late. Is the thing.
That's the scary
I
part.
tell them to axe me because, like, if they're gonna attack, there's no chance. There's
point of
literally
it,
zero chance.
But these are things that you wouldn't know. But your acceptance of the initial offer puts you in a situation where you have to accept or let yourself die. Whereas if you didn't accept that offer, you would be alive and you'd be trying to figure things out and recording more episodes
of the 2 a.m. podcast.
Exactly.
Do you not want to record more?
But if we go to war with aliens, will there even be a life to enjoy?
I'll go to war
after
with
that?
you.
I'd rather know.
I'd go to war with you, buddy.
I'd rather know what's gonna happen than everybody's
If
fucked.
he
in
ends
2
up
minutes.
mysteriously dying before the next episode, I'm gonna feel like a real asshole. I'm gonna feel like such an asshole.
Oh God. No.
Oh man, I'm like, dude, you fucking jinxed him, man. Shut the fuck up.
But listen, Kai, now that I'm refreshed, I can think clearly after using the restroom. Anything you want to end us off on?
That's it. It's a fun, rollicking conversation.
Hell yeah.
We're good to go.
We love it, man. We love
Yeah,
the
yeah,
energy. We talk about you a lot. You're awesome, bro. I checked out a lot of your
we
work,
appreciate it.
actually.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Good
Thank-
stuff.
Yeah, and thank you
Like-
for joining us.
Yeah,
as
happy.
always.
Total pleasure. Always.
All right, guys.
Talk
well,
to you guys
that was
soon. Cheers.
Yeah, Kai Chang for you. You know
Alrighty,
what to
take
do.
it easy.
We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So if you can please like, subscribe, and comment. Feel free to DM us comments and anything you guys like or don't like. And we'll see you on the next one.
Dynamite. Cheers. Oh,
Episode 64.
Yeah.
alrighty.
Peace.
Good times.